everybody, this is the Geek Protagonist. Alright. You have to be some kind of garbage to sit here and try to come at Keanu Reeves. The guy is just nice. He's bought people motorcycles on the Matrix. I know at an airport where they were stuck at, he took pictures with everyone and bought them dinner. There's a video of him where he gets up and he lets someone sit down on the New York train and everything. The guy is humble and everything on his crowdfunding campaign for Berserk, which kind of looks like Wolverine, and if he would play an awesome Wolverine, but I know he's an older dude and whatever. So this looks really, really cool. So Keanu Reeves has this Berserker thing that comes with Boom Studios. And I'm seeing people, I keep seeing it pop up. So I see people like a Joe Glass or I have another person here, Richard Price and them. They're like, he's taking things away from us. He's taking our attention. He's doing our spotlight. There is a wrestler, because I love wrestling. His name was Edge. When the classics like The Rock, Stone Cold, and all them came back, there was wrestlers who complained, the guys are taking our spotlight, man. And you know what Edge said? Edge said that's your fault. You have to make your spotlight. You have to do your thing. Not them. It is not their responsibility for your success. It is your responsibility for your success. Then you got people sitting there saying Boom makes all this money. First and foremost, the pandemic has hit Boom like it's hit everyone else, number one. Number two, for what I understand and things I've followed and things I've learned, Boom doesn't pay that great on wages and things, and they also don't make tons and tons of money. Yeah, they got the Netflix deal, they got a couple other things, nothing is in there yet. The only thing I know of that they have, because I own the movie, is 2 guns. It's the only thing that's gotten to Hollywood. Now they got the deal, things are growing, okay, Boom has been making moves. Their best-selling comic, probably until this one, from what I understand, is Power Rangers. And that struggles to break 30,000 a month. Now, for someone like myself, if I was making a comic for 30K, and within like 6 months I did 30K, and 6 months did 30K, I'm living gravy. That's gravy life right there. I'm happy. I'm like, man, I'm making a living with comic books. That's not the same thing for these other people when they're making it. They got to pay investors and pay all these other stuff. So, and it's like, as I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait a minute. What's the difference between this and, for example, Scott Snyder, who I'm a very big fan of when it comes to his books? He put his book on Kickstarter because, God forbid, he goes where the alt-right blah, blah, blah is, comics gators, because you're all stupid. And I call you stupid all around because this war is not growing the industry. So then he gets the gatekeeper, what's his name, Zhang, to work on there because the Whisper Network keeps talking trash about Scott and coming because Scott, let's be real, is better than the people who are complaining about him. The guy is talented. Uber talented. Yet he does, and he's just a nice guy from what I've understood, and I think he's awesome, but he does kind of bow down to these people when they say stuff who aren't his bosses, who don't have power, and who is not stopping him from making money. I saw Nocturnal. I backed Nocturnal. At some point I'll talk about it to back it. I saw it because Scott Snyder did it. The Whisper Network thing needs to stop. You're nothing. You trying to impede and stop people because you can't get your success off the ground, because you aren't good enough, deal with it. That's not even to say I'm great. I can turn around and make a comic and people are like, I don't care, it's garbage. But like people like Joe Glass stuff, when your comic fails, that has nothing to do with Keanu Reeves. That has to do with you. Now, you have Scott, who I think got someone from the Whisper Network to help here, and the manager, and all this stuff, and you guys are like, yeah, that's fine. No, it's not. He is a well-known, well-established writer. Probably the guy, I would say until like The Deceased came out, was probably the top tier writer of DC Comics and still technically is. He's the top writer in the industry, one of the tops. Upper creme de la creme. He comes out with a Kickstarter. I followed it because of him. I didn't even fully know what the thing was. I just said, oh, Scott Snyder's doing something. I want to be in that. Now, his book is coming out in Image. You're getting a special preview thing of the first thing. Is it something amazing? Okay. But it's not really a preview. It's technically the first issue and a little bit of then some, but they got the extra perks and everything. So Keanu Reeves' book thing, when you back it, because I might as well promote it now, because you should not be going against this man. Okay, so Boom already said the thing about they're going to the comic shops anyway. This is, and they already have the money for the books and everything, and people are like, well, why is it that the Hollywood is not happening? And it's about a character who is Keanu Reeves, Matt Kind, and Ron Garney, I think, is the artist. And Matt Kind is like the other writer with Keanu. So Keanu has probably done the concept and a couple of the overview. And then Matt kind of, probably polished it all up and kind of wrote it out. So then you're like, well, he's taken away from this. See, this is the problem I'm starting to notice with the industry. Now, there was a time when I was younger, I wanted to be into comic books and write comics and thinking it was a successful career because I seen people saying it's great. It's actually not. No company does really good page rates. No company does really good artist rates and stuff. They're kind of taking advantage of the fact that people have such a passion for the comic that they want to come out with a comic. And the reason why I say this is because, let's look at it. AT&T and Disney, not right now, Disney, but at a time, let's say a couple years ago up till pandemic happened. Multi-billion-dollar corporations breaking records all across the board. Every year doing better than the previous year. Yet your comic book writers were making pennies on the dollar. How does that work? Your artists, pennies on the dollar. The page rates are bad. So no. All the companies across the board should be paying people more money. Like, I know like an editor at Marvel, I think, makes $30,000 living in New York. You could barely live in Jersey or Philly with $30K and make a semi-living. New York? Then it's the same thing like with the plot holes thing. That was Sean Gordon Murphy that they always go after for some stupid reason. Because once again, another person more talented than the people that are complaining. He goes on Indiegogo. Indiegogo takes less money than Kickstarter. That's why you would do Indiegogo. That's the smart reason to do it. Because it's actually saving you money. Duh. So, this campaign here has stuff where like for like $25K, you could put your thing in there. If you look, because you're basically what you're doing is you're backing this to get the 3 books. That's why I did it. There's like special things. So like the $50, basically if you put the 50 or whatever, I got the early bird. Or the 75 tier with the limited edition soft covers, tier 99, the 250 tier, you get the blood red. This backing is to get the graphic novels, the 3-part graphic novels, and they have a date when each one's coming out. So this comic is coming out from Boom. So the comic shops and stuff are still getting it because there's going to be people who still want the floppies. But this is for the people like me who want just the whole thing. So each year, I think when I read it, it was like once a year or something, or once every several months, you're going to get a copy. The $1,000 tier sold out. The $2,500 to get yourself drawn in is already sold out. And I think within like 48 hours, I mean, I know this thing blew past Scott Snyder's thing in like the first 24 hours. And that's not a dig at Scott Snyder. That's just the power of Keanu Reeves. Yeah, so within 48 hours, this is at 512,241. It's about an immortal warrior who's trying to do things. Like I said, it kind of reminds me of Wolverine. If you took the way it reminds me, if you took Wolverine and Eternal Warrior from Valiant and put them together, that's what this feels like. Fine by me. Sounds awesome. Bloody. Then they're like, it's problematic because it's bloody. Yeah, because some comics are bloody and violent. This is pretty much a movie script, and don't be surprised if Berserker gets a 3-part movie. And these people in the industry are so, I want to be here, and the people running the shops, I want to be here, and this is all we got. Keanu Reeves' name is putting it out. I actually saw Berserker on a different outlet than any of my other outlets. I was watching a news feed, and it talked about his comic. Now, I remember them announcing it, but it actually talked about the comic in a news feed that had nothing to do with comic books. There are people who are now going to go to crowdfunding site like Kickstarter to crowdfund this, and they've never crowdfunded before, and now they're going to look and go, I wonder what else is out here. Duh. Then you got people, which is what you should be trying to do. Instead of insulting people, trying to get new people into the market to keep this medium alive. Comics should be thriving. People should be making decent money. If you write, produce, do something with comic books, you should be making decent money. And what I mean by decent money, not barely scraping by the starving artist. No, you should be making enough money, especially if it's a successful company that has backers like Disney or AT&T. You should, and it's crazy because then you look at the upper executives, they're making like 6-figure, 7-figure incomes, but the people working 2 levels below them are barely able to live and eat a sandwich. They got to live off of ramen and water. But then they're like, well, Keanu Reeves has all this money and Boom has all this money. Boom is not even outdoing Image. Once again, that's not a dig, it's just a fact. Keanu Reeves, so what? He has a bunch of money. How about this? Why don't you yourself produce 1,000 comic books with the current money you got? Just because a person has money doesn't mean they're going to take all their money and put it into the thing, because that's not what they're doing. He's probably paying the artists and everyone a decent wage to do this. Maybe, and Boom is going to use this, if they're smart, they're going to use this as a marketing thing. And this is more about marketing to get the book really out there. This book might surpass Power Rangers and become a big marketing thing. Why not? Then you guys weren't complaining with IDW, and I think Boom and them come out with board games, and they're all Kickstarted crowdfunding, and they're not paid for by the thing. I've Kickstarted a few. The Ninja Turtle game, because I love my Ninja Turtles, and I spent the money to do it. I got the special Kickstarter Pizza Box Edition. The problem is that you have these people who are so... I'll put it to you like this. I've been disenfranchised to want to try to... I wanted to write some Marvel books. To be honest with you, I'll tell you a quick side thing. I wanted to write an Exiles story because I love Exiles. There is a thing of me somewhere at a con where I went up to Marvel on the con thing and said, where are the Exiles? That book of Extreme X-Men and later, I'm part of that. And I got witnesses. Because they said something's coming in a couple years. And lo and behold, Exiles was back. And they said there's something coming down the pike that's like it, but we can't tell you. Lo and behold, there was the Extreme X-Men that was the Reality Hoppers. I got them to kind of make a semi-announcement, which was awesome. But then you get people that say, well, you shouldn't be able to be on this platform because it's a success. Keanu Reeves pretty much is universally beloved by everybody, so if you have an issue with him, you need to check yourself. He's probably one of the nicest people in Hollywood next to like Paul Rudd. And I would say actually he's a little bit nicer than Paul Rudd. And I've heard Paul Rudd is just a sweetheart. Also another person that stopped aging like by the time they were in their 30s. It's funny. I can see the age on Keanu Reeves' face, but his age looks like he stopped in his late 30s. But the dude's like 56. And this announcement was a celebration of his birthday. And when you watch the video, do you know what he says? The thing, I don't even have to quote the whole video. The most beautiful thing that I've probably ever heard an actor say about something. One of the most. Comics are awesome. That quote right there says everything. I wish I won the lottery to have like $300 million because I would love to either start a studio or take over a studio and give people some, a little boost on money. Just, something to kind of get them going, see if we can get the sales rolling. Do the marketing. There are certain people who I know I will hire to I've already seen have a good mind for business with good ideas, and get them in there and get something going and get a lot of artists that work. Now, I know that'd be like, oh, you're stealing everyone's artists. No, I would be trying to help. And another thing I would do too, I wish Keanu would start a comic book company. He'd probably be the greatest person to work there. Is leave your politics and bullcrap at home. We're here to make that money and make awesome stories. That doesn't mean you can't tell a political story, but don't sit there and try to shut down people. But then there's people I've seen where they say, like, people like Richard Myers and Ethan Van Sciver and Polito and stuff, they're successful, so they shouldn't make crowdfunding anymore. Why? Because they get to take most of that money home to live their lives, to have better wages with their hard-earned money for their hard-earned work? You guys ran most of them, a lot of these crowdfunders out the industry. That's what you did. You told them these comics aren't for you, and a lot of people, these comics aren't for you either. You're art right now. Because when people say customer service, you mean like white males? No, they mean customer service. You want to have an example? Tess Fowler was rude to me. I'm never buying one of her books. Now, does that mean I'm important in the grand scheme of things? No. But because of how rude she was to me, they're never getting my money. Now, Ethan Van Sciver, I do not agree with his politics for the most part. I don't agree with everything he says. Sometimes I think he's funny and I find certain things he says entertaining. But overall, I actually don't agree with several things that he says when he runs his channel. Sometimes it's annoying. Sometimes it's this. You know why I crowdfund him, though? Because the guy has a love for his customers. He adds things for his customers. He thanks his customers. I had one time, and someone reminded me, I had one time I've ever engaged face-to-face with him. And he was sweet as pie. He was actually very, very kind. And it was a book or something that I happened to see, and it wasn't even like I was at a booth or something. I just talked to him really quick. I think he was getting a soda or something. It was a really quick conversation. And he was awesome. You know who another writer that I won't fully jump on, even if I don't like their books, I'm still a fan of. I still love a lot of his stories, even though people won't agree. I'm not a fan of his Superman. I actually do kind of like Young Justice, though, so I've been buying it. But I haven't read all of it yet. I've only got the first volume. I actually enjoyed it. I am very angry that he aged up Jonathan Kent like everyone else. Super Son's like one of the best things out of comics ever in the last like 10 years. Brian Michael Bendis. Brian Michael Bendis was so kind and so cool. And if he's watching this video, it's Fatal Fury Hat, sir. He called me Fatal Fury Hat. At the time, this is back when he was writing Spider-Man and Avengers and everything, and he was my favorite writer at the time. I was going bananas over him. My friends were like, dude, he might make it, this guy literally might make you a little uncomfortable of how much he loves your work. I was enthralled with all of his work, and I still love most of his work. Like I said, some of his DC stuff has not been hitting me the way it is, but I don't like Riri Williams. She's gotten better. I still don't really like her. But there's a lot of things he's done that I like, and I like the idea behind it. He wanted his daughters to do something. He found me because we were talking. He said, no, that's all right. That's actually really awesome. And even though he was moving, he was cordial, nice. He spoke to me. He was never rude. We talked about a couple cool things. He walked off. A day or so later, because I went to all of his panels too. Like, I really was about this guy. I still love this dude. I still think he's great. Overall, you have some missteps. Missteps happen to the best of us. He found me in the crowd and said, Fatal Fury Hat. And he was supposed to have to leave to go get his daughters or something like that. And he goes, Fatal Fury Hat, come here. And this was at C2E2. It was my first con ever. My first Comic-Con ever. And I run over and I'm like, oh yeah, and I had this big bag from the con and everything, right? And he goes, and when I asked him to sign stuff, he didn't just sign one thing. I only wanted him to sign one thing and just like, oh, he did it. He's like, no, open my book, open your book. I had the book, he signed the book, he signed something else. He goes, look, man, I appreciate how much you respect the hard work I do and what I do. And I know not everything I do is awesome, but I really appreciate that you've given me nothing but like love and respect. And because I think at the time I met him, there was one thing I mentioned I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I was like 98% of your stuff I'm a fan of. And he was like, no, it's really cool. And you weren't rude or nothing. You were really kind. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you. You're awesome, right? So he says, look, man, I would sign your hat, but I know your friend got that for you and it might mess up your hat and it's Fatal Fury and it's awesome. Give me another comic if you want and I'll sign this for you for free. I dig in the bag, I pull it out, and it's actually hidden away because it's still one of my prized possessions. I happened to be at the place and I bought an Ultimate Spider-Man that he wrote. And I literally blindly went in and pulled it out and he signed it. I will always give Brian Michael Bendis the benefit of the doubt because of how he was towards me. I will buy his book, and if I don't like it, okay. But he knows he will always get a sale from me every single time. I will at least try because of how kind, sweet, and wonderful he was to me as a human being. And I do like his work for the most part. When you get these other people in their whisper networks and shutting people down, here's the thing. Don't be a jerk to people. Be customer service. Keanu Reeves, I've never heard of him. If Keanu Reeves actually turned around and was a jerk to someone one day, I wouldn't even be mad because I'm like, oh, he's human. Because I've ever heard he was kind and nice and he's very private. Dude bought people motorcycles for Matrix as a thank you because he was so appreciative. Like, come on, man. Being a jerk is not doing it, and yelling at a company and saying, well, you got this, you got that, you're not allowed. They're not responsible for your feelings. They're not responsible for you. Do you work for Boom? No. You're doing your own crowdfunding. You're responsible to get your fan base behind you. And a lot of those people who complain and say, everyone is problematic, I told you, and they're talking all on Twitter instead of doing their job, which is writing comic books or drawing comic books or editing or penciling or whatever they're doing. Those people, if you notice, if you trust them so much, look at how much work they're actually getting and doing compared to the other. Look how much money they're making. There is nothing wrong with having a celebrity come in and bring a lot of exposure, which would bring in new people. Why don't you try to get these people to actually buy your stuff? Be like, hey, you like Berserk? I got this kind of story. Or, hey, you ever think about trying this? Like, you need to promote yourself. And a bunch of you people that are complaining, you weren't complaining when Brie Larson got the freaking royal treatment with the red carpet rolled out with everything on the silver plate, while people like me, who only has not even broken 200 followers yet, is getting none of that treatment. I'm getting none of that help, none of that stuff, none of the monetization, nothing. And I'm not even hating on Brie. That's great. You know why? Because she's a celebrity. And she's known. So she's going to have a following. She's going to bring her following in her videos. And people keep talking about, oh, her videos are failing. I don't care. That's why I don't talk about it anymore. Because I'm still, at the end of the day, responsible for my own successes and my own failures. And I have to own that. So people like Joe Glass and Rich Price and all of them, you need to own your own failures. If your thing failed and you did a crowdfunding and it failed, try to figure out why. See what it is. Did you get enough fans to be engaged? Did you get enough people to spread the word? Are you doing books people care about? Are you doing things? Come on. Him being a part of this is bringing new eyes onto comic books. That's what comic books need. Because, and for the shops that are complaining, you're still getting your books, but you got to understand something. You got to change with the times. You got to start catching up. Look at some of these crowdfundings. Talk to some of these crowdfunding people and see, like, yo, do you mind having your book in here? Maybe I can sell your book for a certain rate or something. Let's talk about that. Get that going. Have them do special covers for you. You got to evolve your business, man. But sitting here screaming in the ether about why Keanu Reeves and all these comic book pros are, Keanu Reeves is stealing his stuff. He's bringing a spotlight to your platform. Take the opportunity to run with it. It's not his fault that he's awesome. It's on you. If you go to Kickstarter, you can get the Berserker. I'll try to remember if I'm editing this to put the link in the description below. Back it. You're going to, for one price, and I think the price, like I said, I got the early bird, but I think even if you do the 50 or 70, you're getting a guaranteed 3 books. That's not including the perks that you're going to be getting. I love the fact the person looks a lot like Keanu Reeves. Oh, I keep forgetting my thing sucks. There's actually a bunch of perks that's in there too. You're gonna be getting those as well, which is another thing. It's kind of like a what you call it? Kind of like almost like an exclusive thing. Like, hey, you're in the club, and now that you're in the club, you're getting this awesome perk. Listen, leave Keanu Reeves alone because just because you're not on his level, do better. Get better. And please, stop it. Also, it's funny because I noticed I didn't see all this backlash when Sylvester Stallone got Richard Meyer to do the Expendables in Hell either, which got a lot of attention because Sylvester Stallone was on it. Keanu Reeves right now is, like I said, Sylvester has always got love, but Keanu is like the guy that everybody loves. He shows up something and everyone's just like, ah, oh, Keanu, he warms your heart. Okay, him in something, everybody just loves this guy. And then the craziest part is he doesn't like it. He finds it uncomfortable because it's just the person he is, which makes everyone love him even more. Because he's not sitting there like, that's right, I am the nicest guy. No, he just is. Like I said, just like Paul Rudd. I've never heard of Paul Rudd really doing anything rude. He just always seems to have been a nice guy. When he had the thing crush with Sandra Bullock, he found out they had a crush, and he was so embarrassed by it. Like, he's a human, and he's awesome, and he's sweet, and he's kind, and I'm glad his comic book is doing well. I hope he gets movies out of it, because the other thing, stop being a hater. I'm sick and tired of the SJW thing, and the other thing, and even Comicsgate has gotten quieter. And people are like, stop hating people's success. You want them to succeed, because if they succeed, that means that they might be able to bring you up in a good way and not this whole, well, I'm going to hook you up thing. Like you tried to do with Sean Gordon Murphy, Mags. Actually do a thing where it's like, no, we put in work. You got this, you got this. This whole family and all these pledges and stuff. Stop being weirdos. Stop being jerks. Do your job. Get things right. Make as much money as you can and do better. But at the end of the day, just stop hating. Jeez. And then you wonder, and then someone saying something about the difference between Scott Snyder is that he did this. No, there is no difference. Scott Snyder is a famous writer. He just is famous in the comic community. Whatever. He's a famous writer. He's a top tier writer in the industry. So if I write a comic, should I be mad at Scott Snyder for this? Because I'm not as big as him? No. There is no difference. Shut up. And there's people who I see that are back in the book who already turned their backs on Kickstarter because they don't like that Kickstarter is gatekeeping. I'm not a big fan of their gatekeeping, but I know they've been trying to change that because it's not working for them because they've been losing money. This is going to give Kickstarter a huge boost. The fact that Kickstarter already has an app, I already always usually jump on them anyway because Indiegogo doesn't have an app and they should. But I back projects on both. I try to do crowdfunding. I try to do my comics as well, and I'm trying to keep my stuff up. But I'm more interested in crowdfunding because the crowdfunding stuff has been better than the stuff because they're trying to tell me a cool story, even if it's political, and not trying to sit here and tell me that my friends who happen to be white straight males are pieces of garbage. And they're alt-right because they're white straight males, so they're intrinsically racist. Yet I had friends have my back when other people didn't. Like, get out of here with that. Miss me with that nonsense. Stop hating on Keanu Reeves. Do better work. I'm sick and tired of seeing you, and it's always the same usual suspects. I knew the whole time. I'm sick of it. Grow up, do better, get better. You want to be awesome? You want to get your stuff? You want to do crowdfunding? You want to make money? Do awesome books, and I'll buy it. But if you're rude to me, and I hope there's a lot of other people, they don't give you money because it's not. It's you're doing the work. It's your privilege to have our money that you're asking for. That's not something we have to give you. And it doesn't make us any type of istaphobe just because we don't give it to you or don't like what you're doing. You've been rude to me. You're not getting my money. And I'm not talking like a little rude or we have a little spat. No, full-fledged rudeness, full-fledged being a jerk. Nope. You don't get my dollar. So, Keanu Reeves is awesome. This is the Geek Protagonist. You stay safe, you stay healthy, you stay real. I'll see you. Hey, thank you for visiting my channel. This is the Geek Protagonist. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Please, it'll really help me out in the channel if you actually share these videos. If you like what I'm doing, please hit that bell notification. Hit it, click. This way you won't miss any of my videos. Also, there's a thing on there that says personal and all. Hit the all. This way you'll get them every time for the notifications. I'm trying to, grow, trying to do commentary about what's going on. And I want to thank you again. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay real. This is the Geek Protagonist. I'm out, and I'll see you.